That makes 6 in a row for the Chicago White Sox as they lost to the Toronto Blue Jays 7-0 on Tuesday. It was an ugly game, even for White Sox standards. Sox managed just 4 hits in the game, and Mike Clevinger had a very rough outing. White Sox fall to 10 games under 500 as we continue to wait for luck, health, and a return to accustomed levels, as well as this so-called easy part of the schedule.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Sox fans, welcome to Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Sox. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search Locked On White Sox. Hey, I'm your host, Nick Morawski, a lifelong diehard Chicago White Sox fan, recording this podcast just blocks from the ballpark in beautiful Bridgeport. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Locked On White Sox is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. White Sox wrap things up against the Blue Jays on Wednesday afternoon. A series finale features Michael Kopech on the hill for the White Sox. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with Sirius XM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. Our Chicago White Sox, they are now 10 games under 500, 7-17. One of the worst teams in all of baseball. Sox lost to the Blue Jays 7-0 on Tuesday. Running out of different ways to say the same thing, because that is what's going on with this ball club. I had this problem last year in 2022, if you were listening. But it did not start this early in the season, that's for sure. It's just unreal. After Monday's loss, Pedro Grifol commented on maybe what could happen to just get on a roll a little bit, and this is what he had to say. Got to get guys on. We've got to grind out at bats. We've got to take our walks when they're available. We can't chase out of the zone. The keys to big innings are not chasing and taking what they're giving you. If it's a walk, it's a walk. Walks are good. We've just got to shrink that strike zone. We've got to work on being really selective and getting good pitches to hit. Well, on Tuesday, the Chicago White Sox, they took one whole walk and they struck out 10 times. How do you turn it around? What's going on? Can you turn it around? It's every aspect. It's offense. It's not getting quality starts from our pitching staff, bullpen. Although we've seen glimpses, here and there where some arms out of the bullpen have been helpful, like Tanner Banks on Tuesday night. I don't know if you saw any of these clips floating around on Tuesday on social media. Lance Lynn's appearance on the AJ Brzezinski. It's kind of like a TV show, podcast, YouTube channel, whatever it is. AJ Brzezinski's kind of hosting it, called Foul Territory. And Lance Lynn was a guest. And AJ Brzezinski asked him flat out, hey, what is happening with the Chicago White Sox? And here's a quote from Lance Lynn. A whole new hitting staff, new bench coach, a new manager, new everything. There is just a way of going about our day-to-day business that has changed. When you have that at this level, when you got things that are happening on the fly, it takes a minute for it to set in. Things are setting in, the work is getting done, and everyone is buying in. Now we just got to figure out how to make it translate to wins. There's a lot to unpack with that from Lance Lynn. Knew everything. I mean, come on. A lot of veterans on this baseball club, and Lance Lynn is one of them. You still need to throw strikes. That does not change with a new manager. It's the same pitching coach. And I'm wondering, with him saying this, what does it say about what TLR was doing and all of his staff? I mean, does this mean that the Sox were terribly behind in some of the ways that TLR was doing things? I mean, the Sox won the division in 2021. Wasn't the work being put in the off season and in spring training? Lance Lynn makes it sound like, in Houston on March 30th, they all realized that they've got a new manager and a new hitting coach, and there's a whole new staff, and everybody's being asked to do things differently. That's not what I heard and what I read throughout the entire offseason. Spent a lot of time on this podcast talking about different articles and different quotes and what's happening with Pedro Grifol and who he's bringing in and all the great stuff that's already being done, all the communication, the groundwork is being laid. So once the season starts, it's going to be like a well-oiled machine. Well, according to this quote from Lance Lynn, that is not the case. It's odd that the ability to play good, solid, well-rounded baseball hinges on the fact that you got to get used to a new manager and coaching staff. So again, Grifol, the hire of Grifol, and I don't want to lay a lot on Grifol. I mean, I liked everything that he said. He's got a baseball resume, but the big thing was he just has never managed in the majors before. He's never done this. And he was handed this team that, again, on paper had a ton of potential. And we thought, you never know in this weak division with this type of team, if we are to buy into, and maybe hopefully the players did as well, what the front office was selling us. Hey, we just need a little bit of luck. We got to stay healthy. And some of these guys, they're going to start returning to their own form. It's going to be great. We'll throw a little bit of money here. We'll try to get creative here. It just, the Grifol hire, it felt like a Ricky Renteria hire. It felt like a rebuild era hire of here's a guy that's got a great baseball resume. He's been around the game for a long time. He apparently knows how things should be done. He'll surround himself with smart people he trusts. And then we'll start building for a couple years. And then we'll see where the Sox are down the line. It just didn't feel like, or the urgency, like we're in a win now mentality. So again, Grifol is trying to say all the right things. What else is he supposed to say right now? Again, the season is not going to be put on pause all over the rest of baseball, so the White Sox can figure things out and catch up. Lance Lynn also talked about the pitch he threw to Biggio on Monday that was absolutely crushed for a 3-run home run. Now, he made it sound when talking with AJ Pierzynski that he was experimenting with a sweeper and decided to try it out at that moment. Now, maybe he didn't really mean that. Maybe he wanted to sound like, he's in with the times and he's also using a sweeper. But why would he phrase it like all of a sudden I decided to use it in that critical moment? Like I'm experimenting with it now. Where was that maybe in spring training, experimenting with a sweeper? And they talked about this in the pregame on NBC Sports Chicago. Maybe you saw it. And Ozzie Guillen had a great reaction. He basically said, you're trying to try a new pitch in a crucial situation in real game action. And that was my thought exactly. It was an interesting interview with Lance Lynn. If you didn't check it out, I'm sure you can find it all different kinds of places. He had a lot to say. What you want to believe or, maybe read between the lines on some of this stuff. Interesting nonetheless. Salt into wound also on Tuesday is the Pittsburgh Pirates finally got the deal done and gave Brian Reynolds a 9-figure deal. Now, after that happened, and he seemed like he was unhappy with the Pittsburgh Pirates for a while. Maybe there's going to be a trade. Would the Pirates actually pay him that kind of money? Well, they did. Now there are only 3 teams in all of baseball that have never signed a player to a $100 million contract. Oakland Athletics, Kansas City Royals, and our Chicago White Sox. And if you look at all the 2023 records right now, you'll find the A's, Royals, and Sox all kind of in the same spot. So Kenny Williams doesn't talk too often, but when he does, it's something to kind of note. He is the executive vice president, of course, of the White Sox. What he actually does these days, I have no idea. Why he still has a job, I really have no idea. But he opened up his mouth and he talked about his frustrations. Daryl Van Scoven had the article in the Chicago Sun-Times. This is what Kenny Williams had to say. You have to know I'm not in a good place right now. I'd be lying if I said I weren't concerned, but this is where we are, he said, and I'm not so pleasant to be around right now, but you try to gain perspective. We have 139 games and 5.5 months left to make up 6 games in the AL Central. If we are who we think we are, we'll look back on this as a good test of character and drive. It's really time to put our best foot forward here, Williams said. Hahn, of course, became a general manager 11 seasons ago when Williams was promoted to his role. With Williams as GM and Hahn as assistant GM, they, of course, built a World Series champion in 2005, but only 6 winning seasons since. Chairman Jerry Reinsdorf has overseen them all. I just described my mindset, Williams said. He's in lockstep with my mindset and the frustration level. But at the same time, there's a realization that there are 139 games left and we're 6 games out. And the healthier we get, the more dangerous we become. There is a reasonable expectation for these early trends to change. It's not guessing, it's not hoping, it's looking at what you have and saying this is an aberration right now, and the trends will start to change. This is one of my favorite parts in the whole whole article. Accountability around here is not a problem. From White Sox notes, Sox April schedule is indeed the toughest in baseball, with 8 opponents combined, 747 winning percentages. The Sox schedule in May is the easiest, with opponents combined for a 402 winning percentage. I don't care who you are playing at the MLB level, though. If you can't hit something middle, if you can't drive the ball, if you can't lay off certain pitches, if your starters can't go more than 4, more than 5, you're not going to beat anybody. I don't care what kind of strength of schedule you have. And this stuff from Kenny Williams, I'm sorry, I don't buy any of it. Again, he's got a job for life if he wants it, and he's going to cry and moan about how upset he is. Look, this whole front office needs to be blown up before there's really any true change. The part that really grinds me, though, is accountability around here is not a problem. That's a joke. That's an absolute joke, because the fact that Williams and Hahn both have jobs, there is no accountability right now. Go ahead and read that article for yourself if you haven't already. Daryl Van Scoven in the Chicago Sun-Times. Monday's loss was ugly, and Tuesday's loss was worse. Going to talk about that more in a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by So Rare. Our new sponsor, So Rare, is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace, transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your own cards, and there's no cost to play. Plus, the more you win, the more you advance, collecting increasingly powerful cards and accessing next-level competitions and rewards. Head to sorare.com/lockedon. That's spelled SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards. Set your lineup and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's sorare.com/lockedon to start playing today. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Grand slams, no-hitters, and double plays are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/locked-on. Sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. So don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/locked-on to sign up. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. White Sox will play the Toronto Blue Jays on Wednesday afternoon. Michael Kopech on the hill for the finale. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with Sirius XM and the SXM app. Search White Sox. So Sox fell to the Jays 7-0. Luis Robert Jr. Was back at the top of the lineup for, I believe, the third game in a row. Grifol sticking with him despite a 4-for-40 stretch with 15 strikeouts coming into the game. Grifol was asked about it before the game. James Fegan had a quote on Twitter, and Grifol just keeps, digging his heels in and just saying, look, I'm not going to move him. I'm not going to move him. This isn't who he is. I know who he is. I don't know at this point. We've seen glimpses. We just haven't seen the complete package. And that's also because Robert hasn't been healthy. I guess the plus is that he's been healthy. He's been able to play in just about every game if he'd like to. White Sox coming into the game. Look, they have hit Jose Berrios pretty well, especially in the recent past. It's not like you have to go back several years. I mean, Sox have handed Berrios 4 straight losses in his previous 4 outings. Sox hit 7 home runs in those 4 games. Got a lot of video on this guy. I've seen him a lot. He played with the Twins for many, many years. And Pedro Grifol had to have seen him as well with the Royals. But boy, he absolutely sat the White Sox down. 3 strikeouts in the top of the first to kick things off. Bottom of the second, Clevinger, he had some nice movement on his pitches, as he tends to do. Some weak contact by the White Sox then in the top of the second. Wondering if this might just be a situation where the Sox could maybe get to Berrios maybe the third time through. He looked pretty good. 1 pop out and 2 ground outs. Sox, they hit a lot of ground balls. Oh my goodness. It just felt like it in this game on Tuesday, just one after another. Bottom of the second, Clevinger gave up a leadoff walk, then a walk to Brandon Belt. All of his pitches were all of a sudden flying all over the place. So first 2 on for Toronto. Ethan Katz coming out for an early visit. Again, it's just bottom of the second. And then Merrifield up. Clevinger, he got away with a 95-mile-per-hour fastball that was middle. I thought for sure Merrifield was going to drive this ball. It was just a fly out to center field. And then an absolute blast by Jansen, the 8th hitter in the lineup. A 3-run home run, a breaking pitch that just hung in the middle of the plate saying, hit me hard, please. That's what Jansen did. Those 2 walks, they come around to score. Reminiscent of that 44-pitch inning he had from his previous start. It was quickly 3-0 Blue Jays. Top of the third, Benetti and Gordon Beckham talking about how important it would be for the White Sox to have a lengthy inning to give Clevinger some rest. And with the pitch clock and having long innings and then your offense having quick innings, it is draining on you. Jake Berger led the top of the third off with a base hit, and then you had Andrews looking for a productive at-bat from him. It should have been a double play, but it was a wild throw from Merrifield. So Andrews is on first with 1 out. You got a Romy Gonzalez ground out. Here we go. 2 outs, man on second for a struggling Robert. It would be really nice to get a run here, have the Sox answer to what the Blue Jays just did. But Luis Robert Jr. had a full count. A mistake breaking ball that Robert just beat into the ground out to shortstop, end of the inning. Andrews, boy, really struggling offensively. 4 hits, 5 hits, something like that in his last 7 games with 4 strikeouts. But honestly, like, what did we really expect? I mean, the bar has been set low for second baseman. I think I was excited that we were going to get a veteran presence at second base. We weren't going to start off with Romy Gonzalez. And again, that's how I'm conditioned as a Sox fan. We all are. It's the Sox aren't going to go out and they're not going to spend money on a proven, accomplished second baseman that can hit, that can field, a veteran. So we're just happy, like, oh, okay, Elvis Andrus wants to be back on the Sox. He had a good stretch. When he came to the team, seemed to be a clubhouse leader. Nobody else had any energy. We'll take Elvis Andrus. It's better than maybe Romy Gonzalez or Lenyn Sosa. And we're getting what we kind of would imagine from a veteran like Andrus. Okay, defensively, he's been able to shift over to shortstop, but with the bat, absolutely nothing. And that goes for Colas as well. I mean, Oscar Colas and Elvis Andrus, they weren't supposed to be the ones that were carrying this team. But the fact that, obviously TA and Makata are hurt, getting nothing from them, Robert, Eloy, Vaughn, Grandal, nobody's doing damage. So the issues with Andrus and Colas, they're magnified, okay, because they're not able to hide in this lineup. Nobody's hitting. Nobody's doing anything. Bottom of the third, 52 pitches on his arm for Clevinger to start the inning. He was getting hit hard by Bichette and Vlad Jr. Pitch count might be getting to Clevinger, and it eventually did. A second and third, nobody out. Full count to Chapman and a big strikeout there. Working up in the zone was Clevinger, 94, 95 miles per hour. So you're looking for a situation here. There's 2 outs. Please don't let any runs score. That has been a problem from the White Sox. He got belt to ground out. A lot of pitches thrown by Clevinger again, but he did keep it at 3-0. Top of the fourth. Sox just with 1 hit entering the inning, and it was unfortunately another quick inning, no rest for Clevinger. 4th inning, leadoff walk again, and then a base hit. Clevinger really looked gassed. I just don't think he was able to kind of compose himself. Sox had such a quick inning offensively in top of the fourth. And then Merrifield running on Clevinger. I mean, you can run on Clevinger all day long. He's still third. Kiermaier drilled a non-competitive pitch in the gap for a triple. Then another base hit. 6-0 Jays. Still nobody out at this point in the fourth. They clearly had a plan against Clevinger. 85 pitches. Something was going on in the outfield between Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert. Couple opportunities where they almost collided, kind of snapping John at each other. Eloy might have said, like, look, I can't hear you. It was a weird situation out there. I'm sorry. Whether Eloy is playing left field or right field, when there is something in between a left center or right center, and Robert and Eloy have a chance to get together and cross paths, it just doesn't go well. They don't look comfortable. And I'm sorry. In a lot of ways, I don't want to blame Jimenez. I don't know the situation, but Jimenez, I would trust Robert in that, but maybe Robert was overstepping his bounds in those moments on Tuesday. So you got 2 straight outings now for Clevinger where he just didn't have it. I mean, the man that the Sox raced to sign in the offseason. I mean, boy, they went after Mike Clevinger. They went after him in the worst way, had to have Mike Clevinger. It was immediate out of the gate of the offseason. Gave him a lot of money, too. And you're starting to see it right now. You're starting to see it with him. Hopefully he can bounce back, but 2 straight rough outings. Top of the fifth, Vaughn with a walk. It was the first one for the Sox all day long. And then Grandal, of course, rolled into a double play. Clevinger's final line, 5 innings, 7 hits, 6 earned runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. A big home run. His ERA 4.81. He threw 100 pitches on Tuesday. Top of the 6th, Sox were down by 6 with only 1 hit to their name as the inning started. Sox had the leadoff hitter on after another Luis Robert Jr. strikeout. Benintendi with a base hit. So corners, 1st and 3rd for Eloy Jimenez. Breaking ball absolutely froze him, and Sox went quietly. Bottom of the 6th, Tanner Banks, maybe the silver lining in this game. Jansen with his 2nd home run. That put it up 7-0 Jays, but that was really it that Tanner Banks gave up. He ate up a lot of innings, helped out the Sox bullpen. Berrios still in the game in the 7th. Talk about pitch management. Also, when a team like the White Sox just doesn't do anything against you, you can stay in the game for a while. Gavin Sheets managed to lead things off, got on, but then absolutely nothing. A real pathetic effort offensively. 0 runs, 4 hits, only 1 walk, 10 strikeouts. Plate discipline, where is that? 0 for 2 with runners in scoring position. And Luis Robert Jr., your leadoff hitter, 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. And again, bullpen, it was really just Tanner Banks. He gave you 3 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 0 walks, which is nice. Couple strikeouts and that 1 big home run. That was his really only mistake. Really saved the bullpen there heading into Wednesday. Sox have a chance to get some momentum on their side heading back to Chicago. Kopech takes on the Blue Jays Wednesday afternoon. More on that in a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Baseball GM. Hey, really excited about our new partner and sponsor of today's episode, the mobile game Ultimate Baseball GM. Ever dreamed of becoming an MLB GM and managing your professional baseball franchise? Well, your dream could come true, and this game is definitely for you. Manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the season, and lead your team to glory. All this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Baseball GM is completely free and playable offline. Play on the go as you want and when you want to. Now is your chance to prove that you can be more competent than our very own Rick Hahn. No guarantee that you'll have as much job security, but it will be fun to have a seat at the table over and over again. Hopefully you can set the market and be proactive instead of reactive. Locked On White Sox listeners get 100% free boost to their franchise when using promo code Locked On in the game store. So make sure to check it out. Download the game. Just visit probaseballgm.com or scan the code. Look it up on the app stores. That's probaseballgm.com. Ultimate Baseball GM. Start your dynasty today. So Wednesday, our series finale. Sox, once again, obviously won't be able to win a series. Maybe they can get a game going where they feel good about heading home, and their prize for that will be a 4-game series with the Tampa Bay Rays. But first things first, Michael Kopech on the hill on Wednesday. Last outing for Kopech was Game 1 of the Tampa series. He got hit hard early, but he made some adjustments, talked about it in postgame, seemed like he was able to figure some things out. He liked how he responded. His final line in that Rays game, 5 innings, 6 hits, 5 earned runs, 4 walks, 9 strikeouts, and 1 home run. His start against the Pittsburgh Pirates on Easter has probably been his best so far. He went 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run. That's the Kopech I want to see. That's the consistency. That I want to see that from a lot of our starters, but that's what I want to see from Michael Kopech. Michael Kopech has an 0-1 record with an ERA of 20.77 and 6 strikeouts in 3 appearances against the Blue Jays in his career. Again, some of that when he was in a relief situation. So again, not a huge sample size for Michael Kopech against the Blue Jays. Hopefully that'll play in our favor on Wednesday. Some injury updates to get to you. Before the game, Pedro Grifol said Tim Anderson will need around 10 to 15 at-bats on his eventual rehab stint. He's still here today. Grifol said Hanser Alberto is also close to heading for an assignment. Can't wait to get that Alberto back on the team. And Yohan Moncada, this one's rough, has been limited in his swinging still, so there's not an immediate timeline. Man, that one really hurts. What a start he had to the season. And with that kind of update, again, I don't want to read too much into it, but I kind of will. I don't expect much from Yohan Moncada. Who knows? Maybe till June. Again, get him right. Make sure he's feeling 100%, and we'll get him maybe for the last 3 months or something like that, 4 months. But not a good update there for Moncada. Promising for Tim Anderson. Wondering what he can do to this ball club. They need an absolute spark. They need something. just grinding it out and keeping going out there is not doing it for our White Sox. Folks, thank you so very much for making this podcast part of your daily routine. You can find the Locked On White Sox podcast absolutely everywhere you find your podcast. We're on Twitter at Locked On Sox. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. White Sox take on the Blue Jays on Wednesday. Kopech on the Hill. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search White Sox. Thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. Hey, everydayers, on the next episode, I will recap Michael Kopech's outing and hopefully be celebrating a White Sox winner. Appreciate you making time once again for the Locked On White Sox podcast. I'm Nick Morawski. Until next time, go Sox.